everyone. So let's talk about music streaming. It's this massive $100 billion industry, right? It's literally the soundtrack to our lives. But for the artists actually making that music, well, the story gets a whole lot more complicated. Let's dig into what's really happening behind that little play button. And to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, just look at this number. $108 billion. That's what the global music streaming market is expected to be worth by 2030. It's a total gold rush, and it's all fueled by us, our subscriptions, our playlists, and yeah, the algorithms that decide what we hear next. So that brings us to the big paradox here. I mean, with all that money flying around, you'd think this would be the absolute best time in history to be a musician, right? But for most artists, the reality is way, way more complicated. The rules of the game, they've been totally flipped on their head. All right, so let's start with the idea of a hit song. In this crazy world of endless playlists and algorithms deciding what's hot, what does it even mean to get to number one? The answer, as you're about to see, has completely changed. Okay, so think back to the CD era. You bought an album and that was one sale. Simple. But now, every single time you stream any track, it counts towards the charts. And this has created a new phenomenon called the album bomb. So when a superstar, think Taylor Swift, think Drake, drops a new album, their fans stream every single song. This lets them just completely take over the charts in a way that was literally impossible before. We're talking dozens of spots on the Hot 100 all at once, basically building this giant wall that keeps pretty much every other artist out. But here's the flip side. For anyone who isn't one of those megastars, the charts have become super, super volatile. They call it chart churn. And what it means is, yeah, it might be easier than ever to debut at number one if you have a dedicated fan base, but it is so much harder to actually stay there. A song can hit the top spot and then, poof, it's practically gone a week later. And this table really just lays it all out, doesn't it? Back in the 90s, you needed physical sales and radio airplay to dominate. Today, it's all about passive streaming and those album bombs we just talked about. Getting a number one debut used to be super rare. Now, it happens all the time. But just look at that volatility. A song can drop 40% in a single week. So yeah, the barrier to get your music out there is lower, but the battle to just stay relevant is, wow, it's tougher than ever. So if the game is this fast and this brutal, how do you even compete? How do you stop your song from just vanishing into thin air? Well, it all comes down to the first few seconds. Seriously, have you ever had that feeling like a new song is just designed to hook you in that first instant? Turns out there's a very good reason for that. This number right here is the reason why. A full 25%. 1 in 4 songs on streaming platforms get skipped within the first 5 seconds. 5 seconds. I mean, in our modern attention economy, that's not just a skip, that is a death sentence for a song that's trying to get picked up by the algorithm. So, to fight back against this crazy high skip rate, what are the labels doing? They're bringing in the AI. Yep, they're using artificial intelligence for something called hook optimization. It's basically an AI that analyzes everything. The energy of the intro, the exact millisecond the vocals should hit in, even a song's unique acoustic fingerprint to see how it stacks up against other huge hits. It's not just about art anymore. It's become the science of keeping you listening. Okay, so this high-stakes, data-driven game, it obviously has some huge economic consequences. It's basically created what people are calling a winner-takes-all market, the 1% economy of music. So, let's follow the money and see where it leads. And the numbers, they're just staggering. 90%. 90% of all streams go to just the top 1% of artists. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost all the listening is focused on this tiny group of superstars, leaving the other 99% of musicians to fight over the leftovers. You know, data is one thing, but this is what it actually looks like for a real artist. We saw this post from a musician who got almost 500,000 streams. I mean, that sounds like a lot, right? And for all that, they earned just a little over $1,000. And this number, this is why. The average payout for one single stream is a tiny fraction of a penny. We're talking about 0.2 of a cent. It's almost nothing. An artist has to rack up hundreds of thousands of streams just to make what you might earn in a few hours at a minimum wage job. It's wild. So who's pulling the strings in this winner-take-all market? Well, the old gatekeepers are gone. You know, the radio stations, the record stores. They've been replaced by new, and you could argue, much more powerful forces. The big record labels. And the algorithms they have gotten very, very good at playing. And when we talk about the music industry, it is still incredibly concentrated. Just three companies, Sony, Universal, and Warner. They're known as the Big Three. And together, they control 70% of the entire recorded music market. Their power in this new world is just immense. And the job they do has completely changed. You know, labels used to be these talent scouts, right? Finding some raw, amazing artist in a dive bar. Now they're more like data accelerators. They use analytics to find artists who are already getting some buzz online, and then they use their massive resources to just pour gasoline on that little fire, hoping to turn a spark into a global superstar. The other new gatekeeper, it's the algorithm itself. And it creates these really powerful filter bubbles. It basically works in two ways. First, there's collaborative filtering. That's just a fancy way of saying people who like this also like that. It shows you stuff that people with similar taste to you enjoy, which can create a real echo chamber. And second, that skip penalty we talked about, it's brutal. If you skip a new song, the algorithm basically learns, okay, don't show them anything else like this, which really discourages discovering new things and just feeds you more of what you already like. So, what do you do if you're an artist who's not in that top 1%? How do you even survive, let alone build a career? Well, it takes a whole new playbook. One that's all about figuring out how to work with the algorithm and sometimes how to work around it. And artists are definitely adapting. Instead of putting all their hopes on one big album drop, a lot of them are now doing what's called a waterfall release, just a steady stream of singles to stay fresh in the algorithm's mind. They're also focusing on building real, direct connections with their superfans, the people who will support them no matter what, often outside of streaming. The big goal here is to get active engagement, things like you saving a song or adding it to your playlist. To the algorithm, those actions are pure gold, worth way more than just a passive listen. So the next time you hit play, just think about that complex dance happening behind the scenes. It's this whole mix of art, data, money, and power. Look, the streaming revolution has absolutely opened doors. There's more music available to us than at any point in human history. But it's also built new walls and completely rewritten what it means to be successful. And it leaves us with this big question. In this new era, who's really conducting the orchestra? Is it the artist, the label, the algorithm? Or maybe, is it you?